Welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, where forward-thinking business leaders come to share their experiences and ideas, learn from each other, and amplify their results together.
Guys, what's up? Amir Reiter here for the Transform Sales Podcast with my guest, Marco Basile. Marco is a young hustler from Italy who has been very active in the community, and I'm excited to have him share some of his tips and tricks and war stories. Marco, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing great. Amir, and thanks for having me on the show today.
No problem, man. Where are you based right now? I know Italy is a big country. Are you still there? Are you Europe? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm actually based near Milan, which is actually, the economic powerhouse and the center of fashion, famous all over the world.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're not wearing a four-piece Armani suit, but it's good to have you here, low key. So for those listening, we oftentimes have first-time people that are looking to outsource, never did it before, looking to do it for the first time. Sometimes there are people who've outsourced before, had good experiences, had bad experience. The idea is to just be so transparent and actually talk about the buying process, the hiring process of a sales agency, mistakes that people make, with the idea that they can learn and not stress us out as agency owners and get results they want. Before I get into that, love for you to tell people a quick fact about yourself. How did you get into outsource sales? Who are you?
Yeah, I don't know, absolutely. So my name is Marco, and I'm the founder of Renegade Closers, where we place, manage, and train top closers on high-ticket offers through our outsourced sales team. And we do this totally on performance with no flat fees, with a guarantee of 30% closing rate after the ramp up. All right. And I got started really into outsourcing because I found there was a gap between what agencies are offering and what clients want, right? So there are some sales agencies out there that provide an outsourced sales force, whether it is SDR or closers, and the founder in this way has less stress for sure in the short term, right? Because it doesn't have to manage and keep them accountable. But there is one big drawback: if the sales agency goes away, so do the sales people, and the founder overnight finds himself taking on the sales goals.
Yeah.
And that's of course not really a good situation that you want to find yourself in. Other agencies instead have the founder build their sales team from scratch. And it is good, of course, for the long term, because then the founder has all the power over his sales team, but it's, pretty much a short-term nightmare, because the founder does have to do all the work himself, and that's, pretty heavy work. So, over the last couple of months, especially, we decided to refine an hybrid outsource model that I like to call, of course, in branding, the Renegade outsourcing model. So pretty much what we do is actually starting out as an outsourcing sales team. And then after a minimum of 6 months, if there is a good fit between the salesperson and the founder, then the founder does have the opportunity to buy out the sales force for a to be defined fee.
Awesome.
And in this way, there are benefits for the short term because we act as an outsourcing sales team, right? So there is no stress for the founder. There are no hiring costs because we do this totally on performance. We work shoulder to shoulder with the founder, and we manage the sales force, keeping them accountable, and provide training as needed. All right.
Marcos, let me pause you for a second because you said a lot, right? And you said it fast because you are, as I've always known you to be, full of energy and bouncing off walls, which as you should be at 24 years old. I was the same way. But for those listening, Marcos's agency is a little bit unique in the sense that it offers closing as a service, right? So focusing on account executive work, closing, and they do it performance only. He had that metric of 35% closing, obviously when opportunities are qualified, right? Kind of filling that niche, right? I think we've talked on the podcast before about how sometimes startups will be in a market validation campaign. The startup, the CEO who's really a tech guy, right? Why does everybody not like my amazing product? I built it to be perfect, right? Does the AEs. You come in there, have a nice niche for people that don't necessarily have an account executive team yet, or they're founder-led closers. And ironically, it's actually support. A lot of what you do supports agencies, right? Because a lot of times agencies get fired if they do a great job making meetings, but account executive, but CEO doesn't really hire an account executive, tries to close themselves. You're finding that sweet spot, right? And then you're also going a step further saying, hey, like, we understand that this closing position is also very close to the cuff. It's a personal position. So we also have this model where over some time, you can hire the people, right? You skipped the step because I just want to know who you were and got into outsourced sales. You went into who your thing was. So we'll have to tie that in the end. But you got into sales and outsourced sales by what? By being a good sales guy? I don't want to put the words in your mouth. Let's not talk about Renegade. How did you get into outsourced sales?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I got started, as a salesperson. I got started as a salesperson, right? And then I found that there was, issues and gaps both for the clients and even for the salespeople. Because most salespeople are mistreated about the founders, not really tech founders, but especially, high ticket founders like could be coaches, consultants, this kind of people, they are mistreated. So on the back end, we're always working. We're as well working on a Renegade Circle, which is pretty much a community where we support closers, and we keep them top of mind as far as the latest changes, and of course offering training as they progress through the ranks, and almost like building a brotherhood, right? Building a family. Because there is something that the something that is lacking in the market, and that's why I want to fill gaps in both directions.
You said it, lacking in the market, filling gaps. You can only hope that the companies you work for are doing the same thing, because that's called a painkiller. That's what sells. Talk to me about mistakes that buyers make, right? So buyers are searching, right? There's two different types of mistakes. There's mistakes that buyers are making when they're working with an agency, also when they're selecting an agency. And I want to focus on that. And we're not talking about mistakes that make it harder for you to close. We're talking about mistakes that lead them to pick the wrong agency and set the engagement off the wrong way. What's the top mistake that comes to mind that we could talk about out loud with no judgment, that people can listen to, learn from, and not mess up?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, of course, in this case, it would be different because, it's not like a lead gen agency, it's like a closing agency, right? But in this case, it would really comes down to, let's say coming up to a closing agency and not having a proven sales process in place, or proven lead sources in place, because of course that is paramount, right? Of course, if you want to work with a closing agency, you at least need a decently proven
let's pause there for anybody listening. So the most common mistake, because there's lots of mistakes, right? But we got it from you. You just said it. The most common mistake that buyers are making are they're coming to a closing agency without having a source of lead gen and without having a sales process.
Yeah, exactly. Without having like a proven sales process in place that make sure that these leads are qualified.
But this is a similar pattern, right? We talked to a lot of agencies that are sales agencies that focus on the top of the funnel. And a common mistake is that they have unrealistic expectations, right? No process in place, no market validation, but they want an ROI in 9 months of the 6-month sales cycle. So it's the same mistake really carried on to whether it's top of the model funnel. It's reaching out to a company before they have their ducks in a row, right? Or even a little bit resemblance in a row, right? And thinking that you're going to hire a sales agency to close deals, but in reality, it's falls into sales consulting if you need someone to build these things for you, right? So they kind of come to you for closing, but it's kind of clear that they didn't check the box of having a process or a sales process or leads, right? So for anybody listening, it's important that you know what is involved in the top and the bottom of the funnel. You got so much content out there. Go to HubSpot's training, go anywhere and you'll learn about this. But if you take the time to understand what components make up a sales funnel, you'll know that if you're ready to buy from a sales agency, you want them to do closing, you should come prepared with a lead gen source and with a sales process, because if you don't, you're probably a better fit for one of the thousands of amazing sales consultants, the Jake Dunlaps of the world, the Justin Michaels, the guys who build and coach the AEs, right? Get your process done, get a lead source done, then contact a closing company, because they do what they do best. They convert at a 30% rate. You get them qualified leads, they convert to 30. That is a lot. That's a big deal. It's a lot of money. It's a high conversion rate. Average conversion rate is usually 15%. So if you expect Marco or a company like his to do closing, get those steps done. And Marco, it's great that you mentioned that, because we love the fact that there's similarities in buyer mistakes, because if buyers can listen to this, they can get ready. They're going to be able to come to you ready or someone else and get what they want, which is a 30% conversion rate. Talk to me now about mistakes that buyers make when they're working with you, right? Like, let's forget about the mistake of selection. Like, that is a solid mistake. It makes sense to me. I'm sure listeners understand it. Now they've hired you. What mistakes do they make when working with an agency like yourself that does bottom of the funnel? By bottom of the funnel, guys, I mean converting deals. What mistakes are they making that affect them from getting the results that they expect, and also affect you from being able to deliver a top-notch service?
No, that's a great question. So I would say honestly, it really comes down again to to expectations, but especially, treating the salespeople. Sometimes, there is this kind of misalignment between what a salesperson does and what you can expect from them, right? But at the end of the day, in my mind, salespeople are like arrows. I like bows. Sorry, you need to bend them, but when they're stretched, they will go their own way and they will reach the target, right? But
There's
the
a
thing
limit.
is,
So like the analogy is basically like there's a limit. There's a limit to how you can bend them, right? Or how you can teach them. And if you try
yeah.
to take that arrow and you bend it too much, you're gonna miss the target every time. And that's a great analogy. For I like that one. Keep going.
No, absolutely. And then again, because at the end of the day, like salespeople, they tend to be managed really well when you give them autonomy, right? Sometimes some people are like mad horses, they're very strong, they're full of energy. But if you get in the way too often, then they will get disappointed too fast. And of course, things will not really fall in place. So that is really, I would just say, another common mistake that usually happens when they start working with us.
Awesome. Talk to me about your best fit customers. I'm going to make pretend that you don't service everybody and you could just help one of the other. If you had to pick service versus software, which would you pick and why?
Well, I mean, honestly, most of our closers are trained, more acquainted with selling, coaching programs, done with you offers, and so on. But honestly, as long as the company has authority and such a proof in the industry, and by such a proof, I mean, video testimonials, case studies, and maybe, the founder has been featured in publication and all that stuff. We're open to work with the SaaS
Well,
companies as
Marco, we
well.
know that this exercise is getting you to focus on your 80-20 rule, right? You can help a lot of people, but you have a program that works very well for sales coaches, sales consultants.
Yeah,
Correct?
yeah, done with your offers really. Done with your offers, which are really, again, at the end of the day, coaching, consulting, maybe agencies that are, switching to a done with you model, because that is really the most scalable.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Let's say you had to pick a region, right? You're in Europe. What do you prefer, EMEA or the United States?
Well, honestly, prefer the United States, for the
No problem.
open-mindedness.
No problem. Everybody does. That's United States for a reason, right? For now, hopefully it keeps them going. So yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. So anybody listening, right? Repeating theme, right? Have a process in place. Don't expect a sales agency to build you a process. You could get some process. The sales agencies run a process that sales consultants or internal people that you build a process, right? If you try to get what a consultant does and what a service company does at the same time, your expectations are going to be off the chart. It's you're probably going to fire the agency, you're going to lose time, and this is what happens over and over again, right? And then when working with an agency like this, make sure that you communicate, right? And that you guys actually know the limitations, right? Let the team do what they do, right? And then anybody who's looking to have closing as a service, Marco is probably one of maybe 5 to 10 agencies that we know of in our marketplace that execute top of the funnel. Marco's would be great. I hope you're going to be at the Sales Agency Growth Summit in Medellin, May 12th, so that you can talk to all the agencies about how you can help them grow with your closing as a service that you now are focusing on agencies. They need help, right? So I think you're helping people who need help. But obviously, any company, if you have product market fit, you get your process, and you want to reach out to Marco. Marco, what's the best place for them to reach you? Where can they
Well,
find
I
you?
mean, you can reach me, at Marco Renegade Closers like yours, on my email, on LinkedIn, on not really on Twitter. I don't use that much, but of course through the website, Renegade Closers again, and sometimes even on Facebook as well. But for
That's what
for
we met.
these
We met on
audience.
Facebook.
Yeah, that's correct. But I
Yeah.
suppose that for this audience, most people are actually most active on LinkedIn than on
We
Facebook.
met on Facebook. And guys, also for any sales freelancers in our marketplace listening, Marco's 24 years old. His path to becoming an agency owner was being very good at sales, being very hungry, being very ambitious, planning a business, taking risk. He's 24. A lot of sales freelancers in our marketplace, they also want to become business owners like yourself. They think that you have to be a certain thing to get it done. But in reality, Marco's also a good person to talk to if you ever want to know his journey of becoming a sales agency owner. We're going to get you on for a different podcast called Transform Life, where we're going to talk about how sales transformed your life, because I think it did. I'm sure it did. We're not going to get into that yet. Everybody, thank you for watching this live. It's going to be pre-recorded with links in YouTube, all our channels, everywhere. Marco, you're the man. I appreciate you. Stay young, stay healthy, stay hydrated, and stay hustling and keep closing, bro.
Thanks, absolutely. Thanks for having me today, Amir. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the other podcast as well.
My pleasure, man. I'm looking forward to sharing your story with the world. Take care. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.